Have you ever looked back at your life and wondered, who's really still standing with you? I mean really standing with you. Not just the ones who pop up for the celebrations, not the ones who send the occasional thinking of you message, but the ones who sit quietly with you when the noise dies down, when there's nothing left to offer. If you've reached this season of life, your 60s, 70s, or beyond, you've likely seen the truth with your own eyes. And let me tell you, it can feel like a punch in the gut. The people you once called friends may never have been. But here's the thing. This isn't a reason to feel bitter. It's a reason to wake up. Because once you understand it, once you really see it, it frees you from disappointment. It puts the power back in your hands. That's what we're talking about today. The brutal truth no one wants to admit out loud. In old age, no one is truly your friend. But before that sounds too harsh, let's unpack what that really means. You see, there's a kind of friendship that looks real, sounds real, even feels real, until the benefits dry up. We've all had people who loved being around us when we were the one planning the parties, cooking the meals, hosting the holiday dinners, when we were the strong one, the cheerful one, the helpful one. But slowly, you start to notice something. When you're not the one offering, giving, serving, those same people grow distant. Calls fade, visits stop, the silence grows, and you begin to ask yourself, were they really here for me or just for what I gave them? That's what I call a useful friendship. It's not based on love. It's based on access. They like the light you brought into their life, but not the whole of you. Not the tired you. Not the sad you. Not the version of you who needed something in return. That kind of friendship has an expiration date, and it often comes due when you need someone most. That's when you find out who's real. And this isn't about blaming others. It's about seeing clearly. Because when you recognize these patterns, you stop waiting around for people who were only ever temporary. You stop confusing attention with affection. You stop giving away your energy to people who never deserved it. And in doing that, you begin to reclaim something far more valuable than a crowd. You reclaim your peace. Now here's another truth that hits hard. Even when you succeed, when you're the one who gets recognition, praise, applause, don't assume those claps mean love. Especially not at our age. You may think, well, I've earned it. I've been through the fire and people finally see me. But not all applause comes from admiration. Sometimes people clap just loud enough to stay close, to stay in the picture, because being near you makes them feel important too. They see your rise and hope a little of that glow will rub off on them. But behind the smiles, the congratulations, the handshake photos, there's sometimes envy, comparison, even quiet resentment. And that resentment can turn into something worse: sabotage, betrayal, cold withdrawal. I know it sounds harsh, but if you've lived long enough, you've seen it. You've felt it. Maybe even recently. There comes a moment in every older adult's life where you realize the people clapping the loudest aren't always cheering for you. Sometimes they're just close enough to benefit and far enough to stay safe if you fall. They'll smile to your face and sigh behind your back. They'll say, "I'm so proud of you," while secretly wondering, why not me? It's a hard pill to swallow, but it's a necessary one, because it wakes you up to one powerful fact. External validation will never be your anchor, and that's especially important in this season of life. When you're young, you think friends will always be there, that the group chats, the get-togethers, the shared holidays will last forever. But now, at 60, 70, 80, people drift. Some pass away, others get busy, and many were never meant to go the distance. You can't build your self-worth on their presence. You can't measure your joy by who shows up. You've got to find a way to stand strong, even if it means standing alone. Let me ask you something personal. Have you ever gone through something painful, a sickness, a financial setback, the loss of a partner, and looked around only to find yourself utterly alone? The phone didn't ring. The visitors didn't come. The support you expected didn't show up. That silence speaks volumes. But here's what I want you to remember. That silence isn't a sign that you're worthless. It's a sign that you've been giving too much of yourself to people who never deserved a front row seat in your life to begin with. The universe has a way of showing us truth through absence. When people walk away, when they ghost you, when they choose not to show up, that's not your downfall. That's your clarity. That's your awakening. That's your invitation to shift. Because in the end, peace is better than popularity. Solitude is better than superficial company. And self-respect is better than clinging to anyone who makes you feel replaceable. So today, I want you to take a deep breath. I want you to think back to the people who used to be close but slowly faded when the giving stopped. And I want you to bless and release them. No anger, no bitterness, just quiet understanding. They were in your life for a season. They got what they came for. And now your job is to move forward. Not with resentment, but with wisdom. The older we get, the more precious our energy becomes. You don't have time to keep proving your worth to people who never truly saw it in the first place. You don't need to chase affection that disappears when life gets hard. And you don't need to keep showing up for people who wouldn't lift a finger if the tables turned. Instead, take that love, that effort, that presence, and give it back to yourself. Water your own roots. Sit with your own soul. Get to know the person who's been holding it all together all these years, you. Because when you begin to understand that true friendship isn't measured by memories, but by presence, by consistency, by who stands beside you when there's nothing left to give, that's when you stop calling everyone a friend. That's when you start getting honest with yourself and with others. And when you do, something powerful happens. You begin to rise, not because of who's cheering for you, but because you finally realize you don't need the cheers. You only ever needed the truth. There's something about betrayal that cuts deeper the older you get. When you were young, maybe you brushed it off, chalked it up to immaturity or misunderstanding. But now, at this age, feels different. Gave years of loyalty. You poured time, energy, even love into people, and still they turned away. It's the kind of pain that doesn't just sting, it leaves a scar. And the worst part? It usually doesn't come from strangers. It comes from the people you once called family. From the friend you shared Sunday coffee with for years. From the neighbor who always smiled, waved, and said, "I'm here if you need anything." It comes from those you trusted. The ones you defended. The ones you never imagined would hurt you. But here's what I've learned, and maybe you have too. Betrayal is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of a new chapter. Because betrayal doesn't destroy you. It reveals the truth. It shows you who's real and who was just playing the part. It shows you who stood beside you and who only stood behind you, waiting for their moment. It's a strange kind of blessing, really. You think someone's in your corner cheering you on, holding your hand, and then suddenly they disappear? Maybe they got jealous. Maybe they saw you struggling and didn't want to be associated with your pain. Or maybe they just got what they wanted from you and moved on. Whatever the reason, it hurts. It always hurts. But the pain is a teacher. It says, look again. Look closer. See who's really with you. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. You start to notice the patterns. The people who only call when they need something. The ones who say all the right things, but never show up when it matters. The ones who praise you in public but talk behind your back in private. It can leave you wondering, how did I not notice this before? Was I blind? No, you weren't blind. You were loyal. You saw the best in them. And that's not a weakness. That's a reflection of your heart. But now, you're being asked to do something stronger. To let go of the illusion and face the truth with open eyes. It's not easy. It never is. Letting go of people you loved, even if they never truly loved you back, takes courage. But it's the kind of courage that makes you unstoppable. Because once you stop expecting people to be what they're not, you stop getting hurt by them. This is where something beautiful begins. Season of walking alone. Not because you're unworthy of love, but because you're no longer willing to beg for crumbs. You no longer chase loyalty. You no longer try to convince anyone to stay. You simply stand. And that standing is power. See, when you start walking alone, you discover something about yourself. You realize how strong you really are. You start to enjoy the quiet mornings without the noise of drama. You begin to protect your peace like it's gold. Because it is. And maybe for the first time in your life, you no longer feel the need to explain yourself. You don't justify your boundaries. You don't apologize for choosing peace over people. You just live. With clarity. With strength. With quiet joy. There's a strange freedom in realizing you can do life on your own terms. Yes, we all need connection, but not at the cost of our dignity. Not at the cost of our peace. There's no joy in friendships built on obligation. There's no peace in conversations filled with hidden resentment. There's no life in trying to impress people who don't truly see you. So, what do you do instead? You show up for yourself. You walk alone, not because you're unloved, but because you finally realize you are enough. You sit in silence and discover that it's not empty, it's full of answers. You spend time with your own thoughts, your own memories, your own heart, and you build from there. You become the kind of person you always needed. Loyal, steady, honest, unshaken. And in doing that, you stop craving friendships that drain you. You start attracting peace because you've stopped tolerating chaos. You start recognizing the red flags you used to excuse. You start saying no with grace. And you start walking away with peace in your heart. Not anger, not regret, just peace. And let me tell you something. Walking alone doesn't mean being lonely. In fact, some of the loneliest moments in life come when we're surrounded by the wrong people. It's lonelier to sit in a room full of fake smiles than to enjoy your own company. It's lonelier to keep pretending you're okay with being treated poorly than to take a walk by yourself and feel whole. At our age, time is no longer something we can afford to waste. Not on fake friends, not on shallow conversations, not on relationships where you're always the one reaching out, always the one giving, always the one adjusting. You've done your part. You've shown up for others. You've cared, loved, supported. But now it's time to show up for you. Because the greatest freedom in life is when you no longer need anyone to complete you. You've already completed yourself. This is the part no one tells you about getting older. That the greatest gift isn't found in crowds, parties, or social circles. It's found in knowing who you are when no one else is watching. It's found in waking up in the morning and knowing you're not trying to impress anyone. You're just living, simply, honestly, peacefully. So if you're in a season right now where people have walked away, let them. If someone betrayed you and you're still reeling from it, breathe. You're not broken. You're being rebuilt. Stronger. Clearer. Wiser. You don't need their applause. You don't need their validation. You don't need to go back and fix what never served you to begin with. All you need is the courage to keep walking. One quiet step at a time. Because the road you walk alone today, it might just lead you to the strongest, most unshakable version of yourself you've ever known. Somewhere along the way, you realize you've spent far too much of your life trying to hold on to people who were never meant to stay. And now, looking back, it's so clear. Not everyone who started the journey with you was supposed to walk all the way to the end. Some were only meant to teach you something, others to test you. But few, very few, were truly there for the long haul. There's a moment in aging that feels like shedding illusions, shedding expectations, shedding the constant need for others to validate your worth. And in that shedding, something powerful emerges. A version of you that doesn't depend on approval to feel whole. A version that doesn't collapse when left alone. A version that stands tall in silence because it knows silence isn't emptiness. It's clarity. You may have thought that losing people meant losing your strength, but it's the opposite. Losing them revealed where your real strength has always been. In you. Not in how many people called you on your birthday, not in how many friends showed up for the holidays. Your strength lives in the quiet way you kept going when no one noticed. In the way you comforted yourself when no one called. In the way you got up, made the bed, brewed your coffee, and faced the day. Even with a heavy heart. You've come further than most people realize. And what kept you going all those years? It wasn't luck. It wasn't crowds. It was your will, your resilience, your ability to keep showing up for yourself. And now, this stage of life is asking something different of you. It's not asking you to be popular. It's not asking you to be needed by others. It's asking you to choose yourself, fully and without apology. That might sound selfish, especially if you've spent decades putting everyone else first, raising children, caring for a partner, holding your family together, being the dependable one. But let me ask you, when was the last time you gave that same devotion to yourself? Not out of guilt, not out of obligation, but because you finally understood that your peace matters too. Choosing yourself doesn't mean you shut the world out. It means you stop letting the wrong people in. It means you stop watering dead plants, relationships that no longer grow, no longer nourish, no longer give. You don't have to carry everyone. You don't have to prove your worth to anyone. You've already proven it, just by surviving, by rising, by being here, listening, still learning, still growing. You've earned the right to set boundaries without explanation. You've earned the right to say no without guilt. You've earned the right to protect your peace, even if it means disappointing people who never had your best interest at heart. So many of us grew up in a generation that was taught to endure, to hold on, to sacrifice. And yes, there's beauty in loyalty. But there's also a point where loyalty to others becomes disloyalty to ourselves. You don't owe your time to anyone who drains you. You don't owe your silence to anyone who disrespects you. You don't owe another ounce of your energy to people who've already shown you who they are. The truth is, choosing yourself might feel lonely at first, but it's not the kind of loneliness that breaks you. It's the kind that rebuilds you. It clears the clutter. It removes the noise. And in that stillness, you hear your own voice again, the one that was drowned out by trying to please, trying to keep the peace, trying to be enough for everyone else. You were always enough. You just forgot because the world told you otherwise. But now you remember. You don't need fake friends. You don't need the ones who only come around when it's convenient or when you're useful. You don't need people who gossip behind your back, disappear in your struggle, or celebrate your failure just to feel better about themselves. You need people who see you, even in your silence, who respect you, especially when you set boundaries, who stay, not because they have to, but because they choose to. And if you can't find those people right now, that's okay. Because the most important relationship in your life has to be the one with yourself. Every healthy connection starts there. Every peaceful day begins with how you treat you. So give yourself what others couldn't. Speak kindly to yourself. Forgive yourself for trusting the wrong people. Forgive yourself for holding on too long, for believing words over actions, for ignoring the signs. That wasn't weakness. That was love. And loving fully is never something to regret. It's something to honor. But now you know better. And now you do better. You walk alone not because you were left behind, but because you're finally leading yourself. You rise alone not because you were forgotten, but because you've remembered who you are. You heal alone not because no one cares, but because you care enough to stop breaking your own heart by chasing what was never real. This version of you, the one who sees clearly, who sets boundaries, who chooses peace, is the version that can't be manipulated, can't be guilt-tripped, can't be shaken by someone else's absence. You are enough. Whether the phone rings or not, whether the invitations come or not, whether the applause shows up or not. So from this day forward, walk into every room like you belong, not because others say so, but because you say so. Sit at your own table. Celebrate your own victories. Wipe your own tears and then smile, knowing you've already survived the kind of heartache most people would never understand. You've built a life. You've endured betrayal. You've stood alone and you're still here. Stronger, wiser, softer maybe, but never broken. And that, my friend, is the kind of strength that can't be faked. By now, you've probably taken a deep breath and looked at your life through a different lens. Not a lens of bitterness or regret, but of clarity. And maybe for the first time in a long time, you've begun to feel a quiet kind of power rising in you. A knowing that says, I don't need a crowd to be complete. I only need truth. And the truth is this: people will come and go. Their loyalty will shift. Their words may not always match their actions. And yes, some will only love you as long as you're useful to them. But that doesn't mean you stop loving. It doesn't mean you harden your heart or shut the world out. It simply means you become more selective, more intentional, more rooted in your own peace than in anyone else's approval. You begin to choose your company the way you choose your medicine, with care, with wisdom, and with a full understanding of the cost of letting the wrong people in. Because your time is precious now. Your energy is sacred. And your peace? That's non-negotiable. It's easy to think that the older you get, the less you matter. Society sometimes whispers that lie, that you're past your prime, that your voice is quieter now. But I'll tell you the truth. You've never been more important, never more powerful, because now you see through the noise. You see what matters. And you've earned the right to stop pretending, stop chasing, and stop explaining. You've reached the point where you can say, with confidence, if I have to walk this road alone, I'll do it with my head held high. Because alone doesn't mean broken. Alone means choosing yourself finally and fully, without apology. Think about all the times you stayed when others would have left. All the times you gave without expecting anything in return. All the times you showed up for people who didn't deserve your presence. You are not weak. You're rare. And rare things are often misunderstood. But from now on, let them misunderstand you. Let them talk. Let them drift. Your life is not theirs to explain. Your journey is not theirs to judge. And your peace is not theirs to disturb. So if someone walks out of your life, hold the door open. If someone betrays your trust, thank them for showing you the truth. If someone ignores your pain, stop offering them your joy. Because people who disappear when you're down don't deserve to stand beside you when you rise. And rise, you will. Every lonely night has been preparing you. Every goodbye has been guiding you. Every silent moment has been strengthening you. And all of it, all the pain, the loss, the letting go, it wasn't the end of your story. It was the beginning of your becoming. You don't need 100 friends. You don't need a calendar full of visits or a phone that never stops ringing. What you need is you. The version of you that can sit in silence and still feel whole. The version that walks into an empty room and knows you are enough, even without an audience. You are not here to beg for loyalty. You are not here to chase affection. You are not here to earn love by shrinking yourself. You are here to live, boldly, bravely, quietly, if you choose, but never invisibly. So today, make a decision. Not a loud one, not a dramatic one. Just a quiet, powerful, unshakable decision. I choose myself. I choose my peace over popularity. I choose boundaries over being liked. I choose solitude over fake companionship. I choose to live the rest of my life not pleasing others, but honoring myself. And if that means walking alone, so be it. Because the road you walk alone is often the one that leads to the most beautiful destinations. Destinations filled not with crowds, but with calm, with praise, but with purpose, not with fake smiles, but with genuine self-respect. You've done enough. You've given enough. And now it's your turn to rest, to heal, to rise, to be free. And if this message touched your heart, don't just hear it, live it. Say it out loud. Write it down. Declare it in the comments below. Not just for me, but for yourself. Declare it like a promise. I choose my peace over fake friends. Because the moment you choose peace, the moment you stop explaining your worth, the moment you walk alone with your head held high, that's the moment your true life begins. You don't need them. You never did. Because you are enough. And now, it's time to live like it. If this video spoke to you, please take a moment to like it. Share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to Strong Elderly Life for more conversations just like this one. We're building a community of strong, wise, and powerful people, just like you, who know that the best is not behind us, it's still ahead. Here's to living your best life at any age.